Hi, my name is Dr. Mark Allanderi, and I'm an infectious diseases specialist in New Orleans. Just as a reminder that COVID-19 and the human immunodeficiency virus do share the same risk factors.
Hi, my name is Doc Griggs, and I'm a community medicine doctor and health literacy expert. This is the Noise Filter Podcast, where an infectious diseases physician,
That's me, and a health literacy and communications expert,
that's me, talk about what you need to know about COVID-19.
You can find more information about this show and our other daily live updates and Q&A show at noisefiltershow.com.
So let's get started.
All right, welcome to Noise Filter. This is Dr. Mark Allanderi. Doc Griggs is not able to be with us today, so let's go ahead and get started. New Zealand's old problems are back. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, many New Zealanders, about 50,000 of them, returned home for the fresh air, the sparse population, and strict rules when it came to COVID. This influx also meant an influx of international experience and connection that policymakers are wanting to capitalize on. But how long will this last? About 1 out of 6 New Zealanders live abroad, and there are reasons why. The high housing costs, lagging wages, and constricted job prospects are described by the New York Times. Despite the pandemic, all of these problems, along with congested populations in big cities, remain an issue. Now, prior to the pandemic, the country typically lost between thousands and tens of thousands of citizens each year. Population growth occurred because of the migrant movement. Now, this has completely changed, and for the first time since the 1970s, there is a net gain in citizen population. One couple debated returning to New Zealand at all, but the leadership was a huge part of their decision. The United States did have better wages and housing opportunities, but it also handled the pandemic poorly, which highlighted a great deal of racial inequity. Now, the group has had more faith in New Zealand's leadership and was willing to sacrifice a little for more community, safety, and independence. Now, in New Zealand, there is an uncertainty about how to retain all citizens, but they are using the border shutdown to reset immigration policy. And for those in the public sector, it may be more difficult considering the constraints on wage increases. New Zealand has a good reputation, and many of their citizens believe it is a place worth living, and they have faith in their leadership to make the necessary change. Influencers paid to bash vaccines. Even with science backing the safety and efficacy of the COVID vaccines, we know that there will be people who don't trust or believe it. There are those that are on the fence who look to the influencers they follow on social media to get their stances on the vaccines. Some influencers are using their platforms for good and encouraging people to be vaccinated. However, there are groups that are abusing the relationship an influencer has with their audience to spread lies and conspiracy theories about vaccines. According to ABC News, social media influencers in Paris, France, who have thousands of followers, say a mysterious advertising agency offered to pay them if they agreed to smear Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine with negative fake stories. One French YouTuber with over 1 million followers said he was offered a potentially lucrative but also hush-hush deal to make false claims that Pfizer's vaccine poses a deadly risk, and that regulators and mainstream media are covering up the supposed dangers. He was asked to make a 45 to 60-second video on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube to say that the mortality rate of the Pfizer vaccine is 3 times greater than the AstraZeneca, inquiring why the European Union is buying it. Thankfully, he refused the offer by saying that making the video would be harmful to public health. Other French-based influencers with large audiences on Twitter, Instagram, and other platforms also said they were contacted with similar offers for payment for posts. As you can imagine, this could be an incredibly dangerous development if social media influencers, especially those with large audiences, decide to accept the offer and make content that bashes one vaccine over another or tells blatant lies. They could potentially influence millions of people to make a decision they wouldn't otherwise make. One can only hope that this trend doesn't spread any further than it already has. The pandemic was a perfect storm for eating disorders in teens. In April of 2020, the pandemic had just really gotten started, but it already had a profound effect on young people. Doctors at an eating disorder program in Boston reported receiving an unusual high number of requests for help from teens. By the time the summer of 2020 came around, doctors with the eating disorder program were overwhelmed with calls for help. According to NBC News, the issue just isn't confined to Boston, but it's being seen nationwide. The National Eating Disorder Association reports a more than 53% increase in call volume to its helpline since the start of the pandemic. A third of the calls were from individuals 13 to 17 years old, and about 36% are 18 to 24 years old. The National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders saw a 50% increase in calls from teens and their parents since the pandemic began. Experts attribute the rise in unhealthy and potentially dangerous eating habits in teenagers to a combination of social confinement during lockdown and feeling of losing control. When thinking about which teens are more susceptible to developing an eating disorder, Dr. Tracy Richmond, the director of the Eating Disorder Program at the Boston Children's Hospital, cautioned against making assumptions based on stereotypes. We're seeing kids of all racial and ethnic backgrounds, all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds, as well as a spectrum of ages and genders. Think about someone whose family has lost a loved one or has been financially impacted. That's the perfect setting for an eating disorder to develop. Eating disorders can be very serious and cause detrimental impacts to every aspect of a person's health and life. If you or someone you know is struggling with an eating disorder, please don't be afraid to tell your doctor and seek help. Some can't get the vaccine because they can't get off of work. Now, every time you turn on the TV or get on social media, you will invariably see campaigns from hospitals, health agencies, and government encouraging you to get the COVID vaccine. It has come to light that some people want to get the vaccine but aren't able to because of their jobs. Now, according to the ABC News, experts say a lack of paid time off is keeping many from getting the coronavirus vaccine. There are currently no federal laws that require employers to provide time off, paid or unpaid, in order to get the COVID-19 vaccine. According to a survey of nearly 18,000 people, the top reasons why individuals in the U.S. wanting to get vaccinated have not done so are lack of time to get vaccinated and concerns over costs and appointment availability. The concern about cost persists despite the vaccine being free of charge to all people living in the United States, regardless of immigration or health insurance status. While there are no federal laws specific to paid time off for COVID-19 vaccine, some states and cities have stepped up in an attempt to fill the gaps. New York requires all employers to provide paid leave for workers getting the vaccine. California's 2021 COVID-19 supplemental paid sick leave law similarly requires employers with 26 or more employees to paid leave for vaccine-related reasons, but it does not apply to independent contractors. Chicago prohibits employers from terminating, disciplining, or taking any adverse action against a worker, including independent contractors, for taking time off to receive the vaccine, but the city still doesn't mandate paid leave, except for employers who are requiring their workers to get the shot. Bringing vaccines directly to neighborhoods or workplaces where people might have difficulty accessing them due to their work schedules could help tremendously. It's important we do everything that we can do to make the process easy and to help those who want to get vaccinated. Just as a reminder that COVID-19 and the human immunodeficiency virus do share the same risk factors. Doc Griggs.
Thanks for listening to the Noise Filter Daily Podcast. Dr. Derry and I have a daily show at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time where we go into more detail on stories and answer your questions about COVID-19.
You can find Doc Griggs at DocGriggs1 on social media, and you can find me at Dr. Mark Allen Derry or at DRDERY. You can follow us at Noise Filter on Instagram, Noise Filter NOLA on Twitter, and for more information about us and the show, you can go to noisefiltershow.com. Hey, Doc Griggs, any last words?
Remember, get checked, get fit, get moving. And remember to get some rest to boost your immune system. And Doc?
Protect yourself and others by staying home, and please wear masks when you go outside. Remember, health is a human right.